Hey everyone, it's Loomer. I'm here at E3. I'm actually at the Uplay Lounge, and I'm here talking with Jonathan Morin, who's the creative director on Watch Dogs, which is a game I'm incredibly excited for. So, thanks for taking the time to chat with me, Jonathan.
Thank you very much.
Cool. So I have to kind of apologize in advance because I'm a huge AC fan, and so this is all kind of from the perspective of kind of an AC fan who wanted a modern day Assassin's Creed game and never really got it, and this is but finds this really intriguing in a lot of ways. And so I was kind of wondering, maybe to start, in the AC world, we always talk about the devs always kind of talk about the pillars of the franchise, which are kind of like stealth, kind of social stealth specifically, navigation / free running, and combat. And I was wondering if you and the Watch Dogs team have any kind of comparable pillars, like what you consider to be the pillars of your game.
Absolutely. We have four of them. Like the first pillars for us is tied to the context of the game, or who you incarnate, and it's the vigilantism. And what I mean by that is you're not exactly a criminal, and you're not exactly a good guy neither. And you're kind of a little bit of everything in between. So it's important to really define what role you play, so that then afterwards you define every game dynamics you want to have in the experience. Like, for example, as a vigilante, we ended up having all those sorts of ideas of shopping for guns, and then ended up oh shit, my face is on television, I need to deal with the situation. So all of those kind of things come from the fact that the player can define which kind of person and which kind of vigilante he is. So if he ends up being a loose cannon, then the game simulation supports that. And if he ends up being someone who cares about witnesses and people who have nothing to do with who you are and just do what they do as citizens, and they care about how they end up, then people talk about that too, and the media talk about that too. So vigilantism is kind of a way for us to make sure that we never forget who we are and the spectrum that we need to convey to the player. So that's the first one. This one have driven a lot of how the game works at the bottom, and it's a challenging one to support 100% of the time. The second one, we call it connectivity. So this one is obvious, I guess. Connectivity, but all across the globe. You need to have the hacking abilities. Everything that's connected needs to be controllable and consistently controllable. The player needs to be free of using it all the time. But it also means that everyone is connected. So in the online department, it also means that we really need to make sure we have extra, let's call them extra gaming experience, where you are connected as a player. If you have a phone, you can still interact in real time in the game, and it had to be in real time, or else it doesn't mean anything for us. So if you're playing in real time with those people, then you are extra connected, and then we're also able to dynamically merge players together in a nice way. So if you invade someone else's privacy in their game, it needs to mean some things to you. So it's pretty much like a mantra for the entire game to really respect this hyper-connectivity thing. The third one is what we call the serious stone. Serious stone is the impact of realism into our game, and we don't want to use the word realism because it's just simply the wrong one. If you just do stuff like it looks in real life, it doesn't really bring any soul to the experience. Serious stone is more saying you need to feel as a player the gravity of each situation you play. So if you create an accident by hacking it, it's supposed to be a big deal. There's people in the cars. If you cause that to create cover for your ass, and then there's people driving the car, and unfortunately the guy gets shot because you decided to use this car as a cover. You should feel that, and you should have the opportunity to try and undo that if you can, help them out dynamically. So, and in a certain way, we often add fun, for those who follow cinema a bit. We often said, let's do it more Michael Mann than Michael Bay. And I'm not necessarily spitting on Michael Bay, he brings to the table. But Michael Mann is maybe the kind of thing that we're less good at doing in games. We're good at glorifying activities like a car accident and those kind of things, which is good. But, when you drive and you see a car accident in real life, you're not really about oh my God, that one must have been awesome. Ideally have a little bit of care for the people behind the wheel as well. And I think that in games we're not that good at bringing this care. And I think it's important to bring that to the table if we want to move forward as an industry. So that's for the third one. And the last one, and then hopefully I'm not going to forget about it, because it's been a while since I answered those kind of questions. So serious stone, vigilantism, I talked about connectivity. And the last one would be Jesus, unbelievable. I'm forgetting my own design. Like, that's awesome. So I guess that the fourth one is serious down. Dynamism. Jesus, that one's important. Dynamism is the one where everything at the low level, you know, like when you describe the one in AC, it's pretty much all gameplay. To me, pillars are defining everything in the game. Dynamism is the one that drives gameplay. What that means is everything is connected at the bottom in the systems of the game. So the player should have the right to do everything he wants in the game. As soon as, you know, like you're whatever, you're in the bus thinking about the game and you have this flashing, I wonder if I could do that. It should be yes, all the time. So like hacking should be all the time, and when you're doing it, the chain of event that logically should happen. And then you can start having second and third degree ideas on how to play the game. And that's what dynamism is. It also means simulating nature and everything else. So the same way we say, if I cause an accident, it interferes with the traffic. And if it interferes with the traffic, then the people on the street react to that as well. They might call the cop. If the cop join, they should behave like they should. If you're in there and the media are reporting the event, it should behave like it should. It's very complicated to do that. But it also means you need to support the simulation, you know, as precisely as that for everything else. Like, for example, we simulated the wind for the next-gen version. So the clothing, everything, the particles, if you shoot a bullet and there's some sparks and the sparks react, it needs to react in a global wind simulation. It sounds a bit retarded, you know, to say like what you're simulating, the invisible, how useful is that? The reality is when you turn it off, you're like, oh Jesus, I missed that thing. Like, because we're used in real life to look at our world and say, Jesus, like I comprehend wind. So when it's in there, you realize it was missing for you to believe the environment. So it's also mean like if there's wind and there's water, they should talk to each other. If it's raining and there's a spot of the water down, like if a car splashes it and it hits a civilian, he should be pissed off at the driver. So all of those things are also part of what dynamism means. So I guess that those are the four pillars at the high level. As far as gameplay goes, if you're interested in that part, which I guess you are, we do have stealth, we do have combat, we do have navigation, and we have hacking. So we kind of have four pillars. And I would say that the core of it is that those four elements should always be possible for the player to combine at any point in time. So that's why we have this slow-mo thing called the focus. It's not just for doing bullet time and aiming stuff. Actually, the original reason why we have it is because when you drive at 200 miles per hour and you have 6 cops on your ass and you need to hack a traffic light, open a bridge for yourself, as well as taking down 2 other cars on your left with blockers, I think it's pretty useful to be able to press that button and then feel like this Aiden Pierce street smart guy who can actually think about that in a split of a second. And you need to be able to do the same kind of combos when you're fighting and all the time, or else people are not going to use hacking because they're going to feel it's not that useful.
I find it kind of interesting too that with the gameplay pillars, it's like you have things like the car and stuff in it, but it kind of just blends in with the. It's not like driving is a separate pillar or anything. But you have like driving stealth. I don't know if that's exactly what you call it, but like
yeah, it's pretty much
like the stealth like.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's part of the dynamism idea, right? Like when you come back to the pillars and you're like, okay, what it means. Dynamic means that something should lead to something else, and that forces or bring the player to improvise because he makes a plan. But then the AI makes a plan too. So sometimes your plan doesn't work as it should. And then you're like, oh shit. And now you're reacting to what what the AI is doing. So, and you're right to say it seamlessly goes from on foot to car chase or stuff like that. It feels more like a movie. Ironically, it's not scripted, but it does. Like, you know, like the guy's running, he might take a car. If you take a car, you try to ram him, he calls his friends, they come in. And the beauty of it is, as you're seeing what's possible, the next time you play, the experience is more sophisticated. Like, you know, for those who play chess, for example, when you play a game of chess and you don't understand shit about it, it's not that fun. You know, like you don't really understand that you should think several steps ahead from your opponent. As someone starts to learn to set traps and outsmart the player in front of him, the game suddenly gets richer. But it's the same situation. It's the same thing. Like, it's just in your head that it changes and it becomes more fun. So when you do stuff systemically, as you're playing, it's like learning chess. You're learning that this motherfucker could call his friend. And just because you know he could call his friend in your head it's different. You have different strategies. You're like, you're not gonna do that. Like, you're like, I'm gonna prevent you from doing that, or I'm gonna prevent you from getting out and taking a car. So every time he surprises you, the next time everything is more exciting. So I think that's a very interesting way of approaching the game design aspect of things.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun once you kind of see how it. It's super cliche, but like how everything's connected and like what's going to happen, like the chain of events as it gets on. That sounds really cool. So we were talking about hacking, and I was kind of wondering, it's kind of impressive how many things are hackable, and I was kind of wondering how you decide what to make hackable and how you keep this player kind of from being overwhelmed. Like you just suddenly look out a crowd and there's like a bajillion prompts for like like to hack everything and do anything. Like how you balance all that.
We're just tuning it to make sure they don't have all the time everything at once in the screen. But in the end, you always have all of the hacks that are useful for gameplay. And then we have a bunch of others that are more like for fun. You know, hackers in the real world have a lot of fun with simple things. Right. And we shouldn't ignore that. Like if you wander around in a game, you can actually hack a Wi-Fi speaker to change the song because you think it sucks, right? It's just funny. It's the kind of thing I would do if I could, you know, like that song is terrible. I'm going to impose my music on everybody, and I'm going to be happy. Like, that's the kind of thing we do, like, in our heads. So that doesn't change gameplay, but because it doesn't change gameplay, we can just, like, select those things. You know, if you're going fast, we go to the essential. If you slow down to a stop, then we give you more possibilities. So it's very dynamic in the way it's proposed to the player. So it's a lot of work, but it's the best way to make sure that we don't get out of one of our pillars, which is everything is connected, right?
Yeah. I also kind of find it interesting how hacking is done in this game, especially when you compare it to other games that have kind of done hacking. I think the Bioshock games kind of stand out the most in my mind. And the first one had you solve this little pipe puzzle. The second one had like a little weird needle game. But it seems everything I've seen in Watch Dogs, it's more or less just a button press. It seems like sometimes it takes a little longer, but and it seems like it feels like the right thing to do. But I was wondering what you guys were thinking about when you were kind of thinking about the hacking mechanics and why it's like that.
Actually, we started with just a button. Then people started second guessing that, and some people wanted to try a mini game, so we did a mini game, and then it sucked. So we get back to like having a single button. Yeah. The reason why it sucked was not because a mini game is a bad idea. Actually, we have a hacking mini game that to some extent, but. It's put in like high security little section. It's for a very specific reason. It's not during gameplay or during layered gameplay or stuff like that. Okay. The reason why it needs to be simple is because we want players to use it. Like I said at the beginning, or I think I said it during the presentation, is if we want players to appreciate hacking for what it brings to the table as which should be new ways to approach problems in an open world. That means the player should have access to it 100% of the time. And since we have driving in our game and all those, and complex shooting mechanics against a bunch of enemies at the same time, if you make hacking hard, it just becomes ridiculously too hard for the player. So instead, what's hard is being creative and trying to find solutions to your problems. And I think that just being able to point and to press the button is just part of the kind of stuff you need to do as you're going on with the flow. So the first time you see someone that's very good at Watch Dogs playing, it is intimidating. Like some people are like, Jesus, how the hell am I going to be able to learn all of that shit? But at the same time, it's like, when I was a kid and I first saw like old school Final Fantasy game, like I was very young and I was like, Jesus, I'm not going to be able to play that game. Like, it's in English. Like, I speak French. Like, there's thousands of menus. It looks completely boring. And then I ended up, like, starting it. And then you realize, well, yeah, you only have one thing at the beginning. And then slowly things comes together. And it's very surprising what players can learn. So you really don't want to insult their intelligence and stop your way halfway through, because they really are able to combine pretty amazing things when they get to it.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. So maybe just one more question, we'll wrap this up. This is coming from the Assassin's Creed side of me again, but the game looks incredible, like really impressive, and you guys are using a new engine called Disrupt, I believe. And from someone who is a fan of the Assassin's Creed series, it's kind of surprising to me that the Assassin's Creed is using Anvil Next right now, and it's kind of they're both open world games. Watch Dogs has driving and stuff, and so I was kind of wondering what kind of drove. What is it that Watch Dogs requires that you needed to build Disrupt for? Like, what is it? Yeah, I mean that's just basically it. Yeah.
No, it's fine. You know, it's very first of all, it's very healthy for a studio to have more than one engine. That way you can offer slightly different options to the different projects, and also creates a nice opportunity to share from one engine to the other. So people shouldn't like see it as, oh shit, this engine is a bit more beautiful right now, and that's why, because in the end, Infill Next is pretty amazing too.
Oh, yeah.
So like there's really no comparison to be made there. Where you know, Disrupt has been built for is the dynamism pillar I was talking about. Really making sure that everything you do is a system that correlates with something else. That is a nice direction for the future, because then you create an ecosystem that can grow in a compatible way. When you script things on your fake little system that don't always communicate with each other, what happens is when you have a new idea, it's a nightmare. You're like, oh shit, I have to add. It's like trying to make a vaccine with two molecules that don't work together. It's just terrible.
Yeah, it needs to be built from like the ground up to support that kind of thing.
Exactly. So like, so Disrupt was made so that we can facilitate that, and that way we can take, you know, Watchdogs and make it grow constantly. So it's very useful when you have new ideas in, because it's important to listen to those new ideas even if you're close to the end, because they might be there to fix a problem or not, or those kinds of stuff. So like that structure helped us a lot, and Disrupt has been very good for us for that reason.
Awesome, great. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me on all this. So yeah, you can check out the rest of the videos on my channel for more AC4 coverage and Watchdogs coverage as well. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.